Okay, hi. Um, you see, I just talked about sex to you. Now, this one is called What is Trust? I hope you do realize that it's somewhat difficult to talk about all these topics when they're all kind of the same thing. They're all words, and while you may give great meaning to anything anybody ever says, ultimately it doesn't really matter because words itself don't really create anything. It's the deeds that create something. And so I just recorded this thing about sex, and then I'm sitting here and suddenly I feel shit because sometimes I don't know. I get to a place where I'm really uncertain. And then I sit here and you could say I start sweating. I don't really start sweating. But I start getting nervous because, I was talking about sex and then some kind of beeping sound came into my ear and there was a voice that said, Christopher. And then I think, what does that mean? Like, what is this voice trying to tell me? What am I missing here? What does anything have to do with anything? Like, shouldn't I have talked about the stuff that I've talked about? Should I have said more about it? But in the end, it comes down to trust. Because while I was talking, I actually felt good. And now maybe something is trying to take that feeling away from me by giving me second thoughts. I mean, this expression already tells you something, to give you second thoughts. It's like overthinking what you just did makes no sense. Because I wanted to record something about sex and I said everything that I can tell you at the moment about sex. I really like the word moping. So in the end, all I can do is trust that what I'm doing is good enough. Because I don't feel like reading up on stuff now so that I could give you a really good episode on sex. I just talk to you about something that I feel like talking about when I ask the question, what is sex? Because that's what this is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about ping pong mind games. And that means sometimes, I can only work with what I have. And I'm all there is to me. The internet, sometimes I just have to pretend the internet doesn't exist. And then the only thing I can rely on is myself. You see, and it's a very funny thing sometimes, because I just wrote down a number of titles for things I could record. And, it so happened that I talked about sex, and then I felt really uncertain about that one, while I felt really good about the previous one. But about that one, I felt really uncertain. And then this voice came and it said, do it again. And I think, well, this one? And then I played a round of online chess and then I thought, no, I don't want to overdo it. It was honest. I said what, I could say in the moment that I said it. And then the next one is about trust. And then I connect the dots and I say, okay, what's trust then? Trust is a feeling. Trust is also an expression for kind of, something you can hold on to. But is trust really something that I have to actively do? Or is me trying to live already an expression of trust? Because in that sense, life itself is somewhat trusting me to figure it out in a certain way. So do I have to go around and actively trust all the time? Well, I'm not really doing that. To me, it's already a trust exercise to make one step and not fall through the ground. And sometimes I take a step and it seems somewhat simple, but somehow I'm falling anyway. So trust, in a way, for me, it's something you can hold on to. But who's giving you stability when you're trusting? Because you're the one that says, I trust. So actually it's yourself that gives yourself stability. Because to my mind, what other people talk to about, God or something, to me it doesn't exist. Right? It's not a person, and it's not some kind of being that watches over us all. That's just bullshit, because then, why would people die? It just doesn't make sense. So God, to me, is just life. And so all I can do is trust in life, that life will do what life does anyway. So, I might die any second now. But whatever trust is, it feels like it's something that I can pile up in myself, and that helps me to just keep going. Because for some reason, I am not like an animal in that sense, because there are choices that I have to make, but so do animals. I mean, animals also do have to make choices to a certain degree. But it's more like reactive choices. I mean, as a human, you can really do a lot of stuff, but only if you trust yourself. So when I think I just want to talk to you about experiences I've had in regards of trust, because it's really hard to narrow it down. It's basically impossible, and that's why I'm not a great friend or fan of people that say, they talk about spirituality and then they narrow it down to 5 things you must do, or to say, this is how you can lead a better life. No, it's not. It's how you could have led a better life if you would have applied it. But just seeing that you make such a video shows me that you actually don't know what you're talking about. Because nobody in his right mind would ever make a video that already millions of other people have made. Because if you cannot even think about something new to create, then you don't know what you're talking about. You just want to jump onto the spirituality train. And you think that's the train now that everybody is boarding, and maybe your friends are like that, so you're just trying to be one of them. So after all you do is to blend in. You're a people pleaser. And that means you live in a world of fear, because you just do everything that you think people want you to do. Now I, on the other hand, I just do the things that I feel like I want to do, and then I do them. And where does trust comes in? Well, I do these things also for a reason, because I have certain visions of my life, how I would like my life to be. And when I made a choice that that's how I would like my life to be, then certain ideas came. Like, you could say smaller visions, because you don't just go from being some kind of weak-minded pussyling to, oh, I'm a strong man. No, there's like baby steps in between, transitions. And so you have like a major vision, this is how you would like your life to be, and then you allow life to happen, and then you gather insights of what to do next. So I have a really big vision, and by taking small steps to get there, I somehow trust my feeling that my feeling will guide me in the right direction. And so when I was confronted with writing the Book of Fear, I had the idea, and then it was a natural process to me to first fill myself with experiences so that I could also do something about that. I never actually read anything about fear, like, oh, what is fear? I just started asking questions. And in the end, I sat down and I wrote the book. And that was a trust exercise. Because you fill yourself with all kinds of stuff, like experiences and insights, questions and answers. And then one day you sit down and it all just comes together in one book. And you need a lot of trust for that. Because you trust that you have all of this inside of you. And that's why there are actually no quotes in my book. And there are no references, because everything I wrote down there just came out of me. And it didn't just come out of me. I had 1 year of, making crazy experiences and stuff. And so to me, trust is something that helps me to just put the next foot into place where it's supposed to belong. So I go out into the forest and then I walk around and then I feel like I want to do rapé, but I don't know where. And then suddenly, because I'm walking with the dog at the moment, and suddenly the dog walks off the path up some kind of hill or something that's quite steep, and I think, well, my feeling tells me I should follow her up there. I don't know why. It's strange to me, but I trust my feeling, and my feeling trusts the sign I get from the dog. And so I follow her up there, but as soon as I leave the path, I'm in charge again. She just sent me this kind of sign, and so I keep walking. And it feels good. I have a good feeling about this place. And so I keep walking and suddenly my eyes spot a spot a bit higher up. And I realize, okay, that's where I want to sit. And then I sit down there and I feel like, okay, that's the right place. And so I trusted that my feeling would guide me in the right direction. So in that sense, sometimes I don't know where I'm going in all kinds of ways. And then trust is the one thing I can lean on. But in the end, I lean on myself. But on what do I lean? I lean on experiences I have had before. It's not just that I read stuff. It can be. But what gives you much more trust is experiences and checking up on the stuff that you've read about by making experiences. So I could just sit down and read about channeling energy, but instead I just channel energy and learn on the way how this goes. And that means I have to figure it out myself. That means I have to trust myself that I know what to do. And that's kind of difficult, right? It's like you have to give a speech and you're really nervous, or a presentation. And then you go there and you're really nervous. Well, if you've ever given a speech, then you might realize that once you're giving the speech, it actually doesn't matter anymore if you're nervous or not, because now you're there, you just have to give the speech. And that's how I have to feel like. You just have to get to the point where you get the speech, and then you just give it. So I just have to get to the point sometimes where I can write the book, and then I just write it. So in between, you need a lot of trust to get to the place where you actually can write the book. But in order to write the book, you first have to fill yourself with all the content you want to fill yourself with to get the ideas that will help you to write the book. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say to that.